much for joining. I'm Richard Penny, and I'm joined by Tech for Good navigators Ange and Sam, who will be taking your questions during the chat and throughout this event. But thanks very much for joining us. For those of you who are new to Tech for Good, we're a network that brings together those interested in how technology is used within social impact projects and organisations, and we're part of a global Net Squared movement of innovators in more than 70 cities around the world, and some other groups around New Zealand. So I'm sure most of you who are here will have come across Tech for Good in some capacity. So, but to those who haven't, welcome, and thanks for coming along. This is our first online event. A lot of people experimenting with online events at the moment, and so this is our first. Please bear with us. We'd love your feedback on both format and content, as long as it's nice and good about me. Yeah, so thanks very much for attending this event, and intentionally, hopefully this is a series of events is about highlighting some of the great initiatives that have been born out of this sort of difficult situation that we've found ourselves in, and connecting people, connecting the change-making community, and really seeing whether we can get the network effects going and really get people in behind initiatives that that we should be supporting. So today we're going to be talking to three inspiring people. We're going to be talking to David Downs and what he's been doing with SOS Business. We're going to be talking to Paul Scott from Clarepoint and discussing their COVID-19 WhatsApp chatbot. And then Joe from HelpTank is going to give us an update on some of the amazing work that they've been doing, around connecting people and organisations who need help, and how potentially you can get involved. With that having been said, we'll now introduce our first speaker for today. It's David Downs. He's General Manager at New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, working in the technology sector to help fast-growing tech companies primarily to grow internationally. He's previously held senior roles at Microsoft, both here and abroad. He's run his own businesses. He's an ex-comedian, TV and radio actor, and somewhere in between all of that, he's found time to publish multiple books, two about innovation and the third documenting his own battle with cancer. So he's managed to squeeze a lot into his tender years, and including what he's doing here to talk to us about today. He's talking about what they're doing, he founded SOS Business when COVID lockdown kicked off, and it's a not-for-profit initiative to help bars and cafes and other small businesses really try and weather this storm and hopefully come out the other side and get back to that thriving community of hospitality venues that we all love to frequent. So with that, I'm going to hand over to David, and he's going to tell his story.
Kia ora, thank you, Richard, and kia ora tātou, namihi nui kia koutou. Very good to meet everybody online. 33 plus 8, that's a pretty cool number of people. And thanks for the introduction. You've obviously Googled me or found something or somewhere on something, but yes, that's all true. But this stuff I'm going to talk to you about today is almost nothing to do with all of that, although it talks about my interest, I suppose, in helping businesses. So essentially, like all of you, now 3 or 4 weeks ago, when I found out that New Zealand was going to go into this level 4 lockdown, at the time I was thinking, oh man, this sucks for so many reasons. I mean, it's absolutely the right thing to do from a human health point of view, but what an impact it's going to have on the economy. And in my day job, I think about export businesses and that sort of stuff. But in this particular scenario, I was thinking about the guy who runs the cafe down the road, who I like going to visit. And I only know his first name, he only knows my first name, and we have always a bit of a chat. And I thought, I'll jump online and buy a voucher for, coffee or a lunch or something like that, because that'll help him out. And what I discovered pretty quickly is that not only could he not sell vouchers online, but neither could anyone in all the coffee shops in my vicinity. And I thought, oh no, they're really going to struggle. So I jumped online and created a little Squarespace site at the time, just with the freebie version, and set something up and sent him a note and said, I've set this up so you can now sell online, and it'll just send a voucher to people, and it worked really well, and he was pretty happy, and we let some other people in the neighborhood know, and from there it just basically took off. Like 2 or 3 days later, we had 40 or 50 cafes, and lots of people were starting to call me. And I tell you what, I'm giving you the warts and all, by the way. We're going to hear a lot of warts and all. We're a 3.5-week-old business, and we've learned a lot already. But what I discovered pretty quick is that, the technology I first started using was starting to creak at the seams already, and the processes were creaking at the seams. But I was lucky enough that a couple of wonderful people joined and offered their help, and we sort of turned the the very early stuff into something a bit more plausible and useful long term. And that was Joyce and Nadi, and they work for Shopify in their day job. But Shopify has given their staff some time to basically do community projects during this, difficult work. And so they reached out and said, look, we've been thinking about a similar idea. Why don't we join forces? And so the three of us sort of joined forces and re-platformed the technology. And this is all like 5 days later. So, we went to version 2 after 5 days and put it onto the Shopify platform. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about it. So we've been I'll do a share screen while we're talking. We've been on that platform now for 3 or 4 weeks. And essentially we started off with this concept of SOS business, SOS cafe, save our small cafes. And what you can see there from the branding, we've actually pivoted a little bit there to be more broad than just cafes, because the cafes were the initial sort of, I suppose, customer base. But what we realized is that what we were doing was suitable for lots of small businesses, so hairdressers and nail people and people who do massage therapy and that sort of stuff. So we actually sort of switched our name about a week ago and said, okay, let's call ourselves SOS Business, and that's been useful. As I say, we've been operating now for not even, I think today is just under week 4. So 4 weeks, we've had a massive growth. We're about nearly 2,000 vendors, we call them. So that's a coffee shop or a restaurant or a cafe or whatever on the platform, 2,000 of them. And they come from all over New Zealand, which is really cool. So basically the idea is I can go in here and pick a region of the country where I'm interested. Let's go to Central North Island, and then basically I'll see a list of all of the vendors that have signed up with us. And I'll show you the sign up process in a minute. And these are all the ones here that we're able to transact for. So basically we act as their agent. Legally, we're their agent, and we're selling vouchers on behalf of this entity. So if I go into, Fix Cafe in Rotorua, I can basically see I can buy a voucher for $5 or 25. So basically the idea is, if I'm sitting at home in the COVID lockdown and I feel like my cup of coffee, what we're sort of proposing to people is jump online, buy the coffee that you would have otherwise had. Yes, you might not get it for a few weeks, but at least that guy, that cafe, that owner will get their $5 because they need the cash now, and you'll still get the value of your service later. And so that's a very simple business model. As I mentioned, it's taken off. We've got 2,000 businesses on here. Last night, very excited, at about 10 to 12, we hit $750,000 in revenue or in sales. And we're well on target to hit the $1 million mark, probably, I'd say early next week or late next week. So really, this has really taken off. Tens of thousands of orders, lots and lots of customers. And the many cool things about this, one of the cool things is, in terms of this tech for good kind of concept, is these are the customers of the businesses who are making these decisions to buy this. This is the little business owners, who have a hole in the wall coffee shop or a little caravan at the end of a wharf or whatever. And it's their customers who are coming and saying, I love this place, I want you to survive. And they're paying their money. The average order value, I'm just going to show you behind the scenes now. This is Shopify. These are all the products. It's basically every vendor ends up as a product. I'm assuming because we're called Tech for Good, you don't mind being slightly techy. But the average order size, if I go in here, is currently over $50, which is 65 today. There you go. So this is today's activity. So $65 average order size. So people are going on and not just paying the $5 that I thought they would pay. They're paying, $100, $50, and pre-purchasing a voucher for a lunch or a dinner, or we've got lots of people who buy 20 coffees, because they'll go, look, I'm going to be in lockdown for 4 weeks. I would have bought a coffee every day. I'll just buy them anyway. And then another cool thing that happened was about a week or so ago, which feels like a lifetime, by the way. Some customers started saying to us, look, we just want to give them the money. We don't want them to worry about having to give us coffee. We just want to give them the $5. And so we put on the ability to do donations. So if I go to, find the right window. If I go into one of these places now, I can choose to actually pick a voucher and then just tick this box and says, I don't want the voucher. I just want to donate the money. As of last night, that's over $80,000 has gone through that approach. So people are donating to their favorite restaurants and coffee shops as well. So it's quite an incredible, we're seeing amazing uptake really great to see the business support. I'm aware I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to shut up shortly. But the other thing I'd just say is, you know, it's a very open model. Vendors can come in here and, you know, sign up, they register, we take their details. It's very low key. We've had to sort of reverse engineer our processes 2 or 3 times to basically make sure that we can deal with the volume that we've dealt with. And we've got a team now of 12 volunteers. In fact, this might be more than that now. People who have just signed up and said, look, we want to help. You know, we've got web developers doing some of the back end. We've got some of the cafe owners themselves who are quiet at the moment said, look, we'd like to help. So we put them in charge of kind of cleaning up and making sure the entries look good. My wife, my son, my brother are all almost full-time working on this. So it's a real community effort. And you know, we're feeling really good. We've managed to build and help these businesses, and we're definitely getting the message back from many of them that the revenue they're getting, and they get all of it. I mean, this is a not-for-profit. The only money that we have to take off is the credit card fees. So the credit card company takes off before we even see it, but the rest of the money goes directly to the vendors. That money is making a substantial difference to many of them, letting them pay their rent or their lease of their coffee machine or top up their ACC levy or whatever. So this is really going to make a big difference. So yeah, with that, I'll stop. Hopefully there might be a few questions, but please, the one thing you can all do is, if you're desperate for your flat white or your cappuccino, jump online, find the coffee shop in your local region, and buy it now. So thank you very much.
Unmute myself. Hold on. Thank you very much. That's an amazing little tale, and real story of sort of, I guess, not only the will, but the way in terms of reaching out to the people that you felt that could help, and being able to be quickly moving through V1 to V2. It's an amazing tale. Tell me, or tell us. Obviously, you sort of touched on some of the challenges. What have been the major sort of hurdles, apart from just pure bandwidth and time? What are some of the things you've had to overcome?
Yeah, the time thing was important. Initially, I thought I'll do this as a sort of a spare time project, and it's turning into like, almost an 8-hour day job on top of my day job because I'm still working. Probably the key thing is the processes. Like as we grew, and again, it's so funny, we're only a 4-week-old company because we've changed our processes probably 3 times majorly. Like how we onboard vendors, how we do the payment process has had to jump as we see. So it's like we're in a hyper growth company. When we're dealing with 100 companies, we could manually do the payments. It was no problem. Suddenly we had 400 or 500, and I had to call my bank and go, oh my God, I need to be able to do batch payments. How do I do that? And then we now have 2,000, and actually the spreadsheet that we're calculating all is starting to groan around the scenes and take 2 minutes to do the calculations. And so we're having to build a sort of a proper back-end database to do all that. So yeah, so that's probably the hardest thing, is the process side of it. But we've got lots of great volunteers helping.
That kind of covers off one of the questions here from Carol, one of the attendees. How are you managing the distribution of money? Is that being handled by Spotify? I think you just touched on the fact that you've been doing a lot of that stuff yourself. How does that actually work?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's Shopify, not Spotify.
Spotify.
Yeah, but anyway.
Straight off the screen.
Yeah. No.
You should get some Spotify going in there as well.
Shopify's, we could do that. It's a whole nother business model. But Shopify does a great job of the front end, and it's capturing all the payments, and then it channels into a company that we've got that then divvies it out. So basically, it's going through a kind of a legal entity structure that that allows us to basically just funnel into a bank account and then pay out from that bank account. So, yeah.
Right. That was actually one of my next questions around sort of the legal hurdles. And in a normal time, when it's sort of a non-COVID environment, I'm sure there'd have been all sorts of hurdles and compliance and things like that you'd have had to jump through. Has that been the experience, or have those been fast-tracked, or what's been experienced there?
About 4 days in, I started to go, ooh, when the numbers started to get a little bit higher, and then it was only like 15, 20 grand. And I was going, ooh, there's a bit of money going through. I better make sure my terms and conditions are right. So I called a mate of mine who's a lawyer, and he helped me pull together a T's and C's. So basically on the site, when people purchase, first of all, when the vendors sign up, they agree to the terms and conditions. And when people purchase, they agree. And basically what that says is, look, we are the middle people here. We're acting as agents on behalf of these venues. So we're not actually selling you, we're facilitating the sale. And we also ask people to acknowledge the sad reality is that they may not be able to redeem these vouchers. We're in a really tricky time. that what we're trying to do is give money to these businesses to keep them staying alive, but you know, it may happen that they can't, in which case we can't refund them because we've given the money to the vendor, so that's the recourse that they have to have there. So people, I hope, realise that. But as I say, no one's betting their, you know, everyone's putting their $5 or their 25 or whatever to give these businesses the best possible chance. So I think we've got it okay.
Nice one. All right, question from David Williams. Would you consider helping charities that need some IT support to help them adapt their services to cater both for the lockdown and the time period between the lockdown and the new normal, whatever that might be?
Yeah, we've probably had 6 or 7 now other organisations approach us, and we've been able to help them. 3 of them were wanting to do exactly what we're doing, but in another country. So we've got one in Australia, one in the UK, and I think Canada. So we're basically just giving them the template. There's also another group in New Zealand who wants to do something similar in the tourism business, and we're giving them the template. So yeah, we're happy to sort of give people whatever they need, and you know, this is kind of even the back end portal, which I didn't show you, where vendors log in and stuff like that. We can, you know, we've got that in GitHub and open source and stuff. So it's not this is not about making money or anything. The only challenge at the moment is we're so super busy just kind of keeping these 2,000 businesses and doing the PR and all that sort of stuff that we haven't got a lot of time. But yeah, happy to help anyone that needs it.
And that tourism version of SOS Business, is that up and running? Is it something that the team here could go and see? Do you know where they're at with it in their journey?
Yeah, I've got a meeting with them at 5 o'clock, so I'll know after that. We just used our template with them yesterday, and you know, they're hopefully getting it up and running now. There's challenges in every sector you look into. The tourism sector is obviously one that, you know, we can't necessarily see the customers coming back as quickly as they will in the hospitality sector. So that's probably just a little thing to look out for. But yeah, lots going on.
Claudio from ClearPoint wanted to congratulate you for being able to build a product so quickly and helping cash flow. He's got personal experience there. His family are affected by this. They're in the hospitality sector, and this has been a huge help to them. So just a shout out from Claudio. And I guess a couple of questions to finish off, unless there are any others coming through. What does it look like? What does SOS Business look like post-COVID? Imagining a post-COVID world, obviously it's going to be a few phases of post-COVID, aren't there? But what do you see for the future of this particular initiative?
We've got a few things that we're planning. I mean, we're making this up as we go along. We haven't got like a big strategy, but for example, just this weekend we turned on a feature around click and collect. So as we go into phase 3, we realised that through the platform, the Shopify guys in particular, Joyce and Nadi, who are amazing, realised that we could make a couple of tweaks, and they did a negotiation with their kind of head office and said, look, we can give people their own platform for 3 months, basically for free, and they can do a click and collect type thing where they book. Thing, so which is a pretty incredible thing. We also look introducing Mobi to Go and a few other features like that for these people. And then, you know, we're also talking about what we do long term, and long term for us is in about 3 weeks time, hopefully. With this platform has still got value. You know, we'll talk to a few people. We'll see who wants to take it on. I think the idea of having this centralized directory of places where you can go and find stuff is really useful, and the idea of being able to sell kind of vouchers online will remain useful. So potentially it's got some long-term kind of value, but at this stage we're not really sure what exactly we'll do with it.
It's absolutely got long-term value, and it's amazing how, you know, quickly people can think of stuff that we've actually been needing for a long time, but when we have to. So
amazing how fast you can do it. Hey, one quick thing, just I should say a shout out, because someone's asking how do we cover the cost, because yes, this is actually costing us money. You know, we give all the money, but of course we're accruing costs. We were lucky, we've got 3 or 4 sponsors now come on board: Kiwi Bank, ABC Business, and we've got some really cool supporters who just give us a few $1,000s or whatever, just to kind of help us out with the cost. So at this stage it's not costing us any money, but who knows, as it grows it keeps, you know, the costs keep growing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that dovetails into another last couple of questions here. So the Give a Little team, this is a question from Spark. Give a Little team would no doubt be up for helping you tackle any questions, as they've run a similar marketplace and they are AML ninjas. So if you haven't had any connection with those guys, there's a suggestion there.
Yes, please.
All good. All right. And just quickly, I had one last question because just got a couple more minutes, and this is a bit tricky, but in terms of, you know, if you're an optimist, and I saw in your profile there, where you've obviously, you know, used your power of positive thought and optimism to get through some tough times yourself. When you look through your rose-coloured crystal ball and look at, post-COVID, just even looking back, stepping back from the SOS business, what do you see in terms of positive things that we can look forward to as a result of the tough times we've got ahead or that we've been through?
Oh, we're living in remarkable times. We couldn't have imagined this 2 months ago, but there's absolutely opportunity in amongst the tragedies that are going on. In my humble opinion, we'll look back at this period as being a pivotal moment in the same way that we look at World War II or 9/11 or these massive, societal shifts. And right now, I think what we're seeing is this incredible, I believe, anyway, this is just my belief, is this incredible return to humanness, which is so ironic given that we're all in our bubbles and we're all talking to each other through screens. But what I've noticed so massively in the last month or so is how well connected we can be to other people, and how just the mere fact that we're all doing this from home when we're kind of in our home clothes and the kids are running around and we're cooking dinner and all that sort of cool stuff has just reminded us all that underneath these sort of facades that we put on sometimes when we go to work, we're just humans talking to other humans. And I love that. I think that's really cool because that's I've always thought that this kind of concept of authenticity is something that we need to bring back to business, and I'm kind of pleased that we're seeing it kind of in rapid, hyper accelerated growth mode at the moment.
Absolutely. Agreed. That's awesome. Well, unless we've got any other final questions for David, I'm going to thank him very much for your time and all the awesome stuff that you're doing there. We'll come back to you right at the end, so don't go anywhere. But I'm now going to introduce Paul Scott. Paul Scott's ClearPoint's Chief of Partnerships and Platform. I wonder whether we can cut across to Paul on the screen there. And ClearPoint has been a long-time Tech for Good sponsor, so it's really nice to have them on the virtual stage as opposed to behind the scenes where they've been supported in the past. A little bit about Paul. He's a 20-year veteran of tech professional services, both here and overseas, focused on business transformation and growth, and particularly around customer experience and how you can enhance your customer experience through tech. But today, Paul's going to talk to us about an initiative that they've got going on there, the COVID-19 WhatsApp channel, and how it came about and where they're at now and what the future holds. So I'm going to hand over to Paul.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. I'm really happy to be here with you Tech for Good folks today to talk about a pretty crazy journey over the last few weeks we've had with the government's WhatsApp channel. I'm just going to share my screen. I guess just to appreciate sort of how we got into this, I guess the weekend before we got into lockdown, I received a call on Saturday morning from one of the founders of ClearPoint. And he said, look, we need to join the fight against COVID-19 and deliver this WhatsApp solution. Do you want to help? And I sort of kind of went, okay, let's do it. Let's make it happen. And I guess he had just got a call from a friend of his, Sam Morgan, who's one of the founders of TradeMe, who was pulling together a crack team for the private sector to sort of help government with some initiatives. And Sam was working with a couple of other folk like Stephen Tyndall, etc. And I guess through Sam's work with other pandemics in Africa, and he's seen the impact of lack of information can have in something like this. So I said, sure, let's make it happen. And that sort of started a period for me of about 16 days straight without a weekend, basically without sleep, 12, 14 hours a day with a bunch of other dedicated folk to make this happen. Now, I don't know if many of you have worked with government before, but a project like this, to do it in 10 days, that would normally take 6 months. So there was a lot of blood, sweat and tears to actually get to make that happen. And not only, picking up a whole completely new set of technology based on, what the World Health Organization had implemented, but getting legal, procurement, technical, security, content, all those things sorted in 10 days is just insane. So the vision we had that came from, I guess, Sam and a couple of others around the solution was, how do we sort of leverage what the World Health Organization had done in their WhatsApp channel, which they'd had about 20 million people use it already, to bring critical information about COVID-19 to Kiwis. And really it was looking, how do we take the pressure off organizations like Healthline, which at that time was experiencing significant delays in answering calls. And I guess what's the beauty about WhatsApp, and I know many of you will have it, is it's really the perfect messaging channel for a two-way dialogue, because actually one of the few mainstream messaging platforms that provides end-to-end encryption, right? Which is absolutely key for our phase 2 of what we're going to be doing, which I'll talk to you about in a second, which is a two-way interactive daily health check-in. We want to make sure that no one else can sort of capture or see that information other than the government bot, which is really key. And then finally was once we've actually collected some data, to provide that back to government to help them get in front of the virus, particularly as we move into level 3 and 2 in the future. This virus is going to be with us for a long time, so we want to make sure that any hotspots that sort of flare up, we're able to deal with them. So really what we're looking to do in step 1 is deliver a solution in WhatsApp to enable people to get access to that information, including latest case numbers, latest updates and key information, things like that. And we got launched by the Prime Minister on TV on a live press conference. A first for me. I've never had a technology solution I've been involved in launched by the PM, so the team were pretty happy with that. So that was sort of the first step, and the next step was bringing in what I just talked about, which was this daily health check. I'm happy to share with you, we actually soft launched that yesterday, that new feature, and it's going to be launched in the media coming up soon. But I'll take you through what that looks like, and it's really a key input point to be able for us to map the progress of the virus, to enable us to understand how people are feeling and to think about early intervention together with other initiatives that government have, for instance, contact tracing, etc. So we had lots of media around the initial launch. We've had over 500,000 messages pass through the solution before up till now, and we're just about to crank up the promotion and get that going. So it's been fantastic. Even as I mentioned, the Prime Minister got involved at a daily press conference. And I guess for me, it really shows what the public and private sector can do together. We had a fantastic team we worked with at the government, at DIA and MOH, but the private sector, obviously we're known to bring our agility and speed and be able to help government on something like this is really fantastic. To deliver this in 10 days, as I mentioned, was complex, right? But you can see there the different stakeholders that we had, right? For instance, Facebook and WhatsApp, they wanted to really be across everything we're doing, approve everything right down to the content level, I guess, to make sure that, they're key to make sure that, there wasn't misinformation going out there. We actually collaborated with other organizations. So Atlassian, who many of you might know from the Jira software, they were essentially playing the same role as ClearPoint was, but on the Australian side. So it's essentially the same solution being implemented in Australia. So we teamed up with them to take learnings and sort of to work 24 hours across to sort of make that happen and accelerate our speed. We also worked with another company, Turn.io, a company from South Africa who rolled out the WHO solution, and also South Africa and MOH, AWS. So, I know many of you guys have been spending a lot of time on Zoom and Hangouts and Teams, but I can honestly say I've never had so many Zoom calls in my life in such a short amount of time, and so many WhatsApp groups with different stakeholders to manage. Absolutely fantastic to be part of. So, as I mentioned, phase 1, we delivered a simple kind of menu / IVR driven bot. We went live with 8 languages to start with. And we've kind of, we worked to pull that content together and taking content from official sources and making it appropriate for messaging platforms and etc. And we've got many people today using the platform and coming back and getting those daily case updates and wanting to know what that looks like. So yeah, but one of the key reason for actually doing this project was this daily health check-in. And as I mentioned, we soft launched that yesterday. So I want to just give you guys a quick look at what that looks like. So this is the gov.nz WhatsApp channel. So we can interact with that. I'm just going to bring up the main menu. We can see some basic information, as I said, latest updates and latest cases. We've just mentioned as I launched the daily health check. So I'm just going to go in there. We can see a little bit of information. We give people an overview of why we want them to do this, right? The idea is to help us detect COVID in the community as early as possible. But what I'm going to do is just go ahead and just crack on and do a daily health check. All of you guys can get in and give this a go afterwards, and I'll give you the link at the end. We're really keen to get feedback through this soft launch period. So this is the first time I'm going to go through, and we're going to ask some information, which we're only going to take once. And this is going to just help us with some of our statistics in terms of demographics, where the virus may be, which regions it might be. So I'm just going to go through and capture some of these. Some of this, okay, where was I, what year was I born? What's my postcode? Because we want to be able to map where the virus is actually, what regions. Capture some information around if I've got any weakened immune systems. Am I a public health worker or someone with essential contact, et cetera, et cetera. So that's it. So that only asks me to do that once. That I won't have to do that again. And then so simply every day, all we want you to do is check in and tell us if you're feeling well or if you're unwell. If you're fine, all you have to do is say fine. If you're unwell, we'll go through and ask you a few more questions around your symptoms. So in this case, I'm feeling pretty good today. Not a problem. We want to thank everybody for helping map this, and then we want people to. We want to remind people to do this again, because the idea is actually we want people to come back every day and do this, whether they're feeling fine or not, so we can actually help track the progress. So that's a simple case. If you're feeling unwell, then we ask you a few more questions about your symptoms, and if you've got some sort of key symptoms, we'll give you advice to be able to go see your GP, or maybe call Healthline, or if it's very serious, maybe to get on the phone and maybe call 111. So that information is really, that's sort of the input. And then as we, just one second, I'm just going to share my other screen. Okay, here we go. So so that's sort of the overview of the health check and capturing the information. But the real value for it is the information we can provide back to Ministry of Health. We all want to stay in lockdown 3. We all want to move to lockdown 2 and get more freedom. So then this is a data point that can help provide that input. So the idea is we can see some trends in terms of how people are feeling. We can see how things are going in the regions. And again, it's just more input to help government and health officials decide and understand the health of the nation, and also where any hotspots of COVID-19 might be coming up again, which is really interesting. So so what next? So as I mentioned, we've soft launched the daily health check. So we'll be looking to launch that wider coming soon through media, etc. We're looking to build multilingual for the daily health check. We're looking at other channels, because we recognize that not everybody has WhatsApp. Not everybody maybe wants to install WhatsApp. So we're looking at other channels such as SMS, which have got higher penetration, and potentially web as well. We want to make it smarter. So at the moment, the chatbot's kind of constrained, and it's got a lot of sort of a menu structure you can follow. So we want to look to make that smarter, and then also look for the potential to roll out in the Pacific Islands in the future as well. So we've got a roadmap there, really exciting to be able to deliver on that. And so I guess really where that just leaves it is just really want to enlist all of you to help us join the fight against COVID-19. Do your daily health check-in, whether you feel fine or sick. If you haven't got WhatsApp installed, go into the App Store, search it, install it, and then head over to covid19.govt.nz/WhatsApp. Click that up in your browser. You'll be able to. It'll pop up a WhatsApp screen. You can send a message. It'll automatically add that to our WhatsApp channel to your WhatsApp solution, and you can start interacting with the channel on a daily basis. So it's been an awesome project, and a really meaningful project for the team to work on as well. So yeah, happy to take some questions now, guys.
Awesome, mate. That's great. Thank you very much for sharing what you've been doing there. I can imagine some fairly long nights managing a project team across time zones and organisations and government departments, and really, so well done on still being awake and with a smile on your face. What I guess you've sort of touched on some of the challenges that you faced there. Are there any other sort of key things that you can call out that have been really curly ones that have left you scratching your head, or the team really had to pull together on? What some of the key things you battled with?
Look, I think picking up a new set of technology that the platform that we picked up, Turn.io, it had been designed as a SaaS platform used in South Africa and a number of other countries, right? And so, it didn't necessarily have an instruction manual that came with it. So hence that collaboration we had with Atlassian in Australia, that really helped us move things across. And I've just been so pleasantly surprised with our engagement through government. Right from the top down, in terms of that can-do attitude. We did things. We completed commercials with government. We completed contracts, privacy policies in hours and days. Again, that would have taken weeks or months under normal circumstances. There's a real willingness to be able to do that. Absolutely.
And awesome. And yeah, I mean, again, it's same with David's story, really, in terms of stuff that, you know, it can get done and should get done. Suddenly we're able to find ways to get them done in a crisis, and hopefully some of those good behaviours carry on. I mean, obviously some cases where you need that longer process, but like I think that we can all learn from how quickly we've been able to achieve things when we've had to. Tell us, you touched on some of the technologies at Turn.io, Atlassian. Without getting too techie, given that this is a tech audience, what are the key pieces of technology that are involved in this? Are you able to sort of
a little
bit
absolutely. So the whole stack is hosted on AWS, and the components that kind of, you know, we're using all. It's a very modern architecture, Kubernetes, containerization, etc. So the Turn.io have the platform that provide, if you like, some of the content management and manage the message flow. And then the WhatsApp, we leverage something called the WhatsApp Business API that essentially enables a WhatsApp user from your phone to be able to communicate securely end to end with an official trusted organization such as the government, and to manage that encryption flow end to end. So, you know, and we've had to kind of pull all of that together and make it work. But you know, it's all scalable, and it's had to support a significant number of users. You know, when we had an announcement from the PM and the live conference, you know, the numbers just went crazy. So it's had to be scalable and just work seamlessly, which it absolutely has.
Question from myself, actually. Have you had to have any sort of interface interaction with the WhatsApp team, or how's that work?
Yeah, we have actually. So, and to be fair, the WhatsApp team have been absolutely fantastic. So the WhatsApp regional team out of Singapore, we've been engaged with, and they've got a sort of a hit team that's involved of working with government agencies around the world who are looking to do something similar. So, you know, they've been available 24/7 to help us. They monitored our go live to make sure everything was looking good on the WhatsApp side. You know, so we've had that interaction. Obviously, WhatsApp are owned by Facebook, so we've had the Facebook folk involved as well. And so they've been, you know, as I said, there's a real willingness to make it happen, and, you know, in record time.
What are you using to sort of try and manage the project from a software point of view, or what sort of project management methodologies have you applied to try and do this, pull this together in such a short space of time?
Yeah, project management methodologies have been an interesting one. We've been following sort of agile principles, daily stand-ups, all of those sort of processes, Jira for managing workload, spreadsheets, it's been managed through a lot of communication, right? We haven't necessarily had a bunch of processes in place. Things have had to move quickly as the virus has been moving. And things have been changing quickly as well in New Zealand, right? We've had to adapt to different priorities, and yeah.
All right, and so a couple of questions from the attendees. So, is the daily health check being used in other countries?
Yes, it is. So the daily health check is live in South Africa and a few other countries. I think New Zealand was the third country to go live with the overall Turn.io solution. There's a lot more now. So we are one of the first to go live with the daily health check as well. So Australia hasn't gone live. They beat us to the go live of version 1. We've beat them to this, so pretty happy about that. It is absolutely. For instance, I had a story that I sold, for instance, in South Africa. The president of South Africa wanted to send out 50,000 health workers out into all the villages and townships to get information, right? Potentially further spreading the virus. So the daily, to capture the information at the daily health check. So they got that out there as a way to actually stop that happening. And but yeah, as I said, we've soft launched our daily health check only yesterday. So it's early days, but we're really keen to get feedback, etc.
Awesome. And so have you taken any learnings from Flu Tracker?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, very interesting question. So the daily health check that we built, there was a lot of different comparison points of different COVID symptom checkers taken from around the world. Flu Tracker was analyzed. I mentioned as part of our team, Sam Morgan was part of it, and he engaged with the Flu Tracker guy. So we did engage quite widely to get feedback and input onto the into the overall solution, and yeah, to chat to as many people as possible.
Okay, got a question from Nick Jones, who says, great work. How did you get the language translation done so quickly?
Yeah, look, the language translation was challenging, and it's an ongoing issue for us. So we went live initially with English, and once we had sort of locked that content down sufficiently, we then went out to translation. One of the nice things, obviously working with government on this, and one of the key agencies we were engaged with was DIA. DIA, they have the government translation service is managed through them. So they have all the people lined up, everything there. So literally we were able to turn around our content across those 8 languages in less than 2 days, which was pretty phenomenal, right? Obviously, you know, they had everybody lined up, etc. But government sort of got everything in place for translation, ready to go. However, as we sort of, you know, move forward and we're changing different pieces, it does, you know, prove an operational challenge to kind of keep that updated through translation. So we've kind of, you know, gone in sort of chunks. So we're looking to have another chunk of translation, you know, go live in the next week or so. But yeah, it's definitely something that at the speed at which things are moving, and also the other challenge we get is it's a lot of the information is embargoed. So we find out the information that comes out literally at the same time as everybody else does, including you guys on the 1 o'clock press briefing. So we've got to sort of run quickly and get the content updated, you know, almost in real time as that information is being released.
Okay, got time for a few more questions if you do. I've got one from Priyanka. How confident are you of the reliability of the data you're collecting from the daily check? Sorry.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's obviously early days. In terms of the data that we're collecting, we've tried to keep the flow quite simple in terms of the data. You know, a lot of yes/no questions. We validate the data that we've got. I think one of the key things is we're calling it a daily check-in. It's not a replacement for medical advice, and it's not it's definitely not a medical triage tool, right? So there's 2 parts to it. Yes, we can understand if you've got certain symptoms. We do give you some advice in terms of, hey, you might like to call Healthline or contact your GP. It sounds like you might have some serious symptoms. That's one part of it. So we definitely don't want to provide that medical advice. The second part of it is we want to, as I mentioned, collect the data to be able to get early insight and to be able to into where hotspots might be. So we've taken a lot of advice, and we've got the right validations, etc., and we've tried to keep things simple. So I guess time will tell, and we'll pivot where we need to, for sure.
Okay. Some other thoughts here. Could this be integrated somehow so that essential businesses or businesses in general could do a daily check of their own bubble, and as we progress to lower lockdown levels, I guess, so that lack of information that businesses are finding around what they can and can't do, could this be applied to that?
Yeah, I think in terms of information, in terms of what you can and can't do, from the channel, the WhatsApp channel, we have got information in there around that, basic information, and then we've got links out to more relevant information. So the idea is we want to make it quick and easy for people to get that information that they need. In terms of the health check, we're still, I guess we're open to feedback, and we're looking at where we might take this in the future. I know there are a lot of other initiatives that government are looking at around other let's say tracing methods as well, contact tracing, etc. Yep.
Okay, I got one last question here. The elephant in the room, when you mentioned the word Facebook, how are you going to protect privacy from the daily health check data, and how do we make sure that Mark isn't able to access all of our private information?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that this is one of the most important pieces, and it was absolutely one of the reasons why WhatsApp was a platform that was selected. As I mentioned earlier on, WhatsApp is one of the only common messaging platforms that provides end-to-end encryption. So the encryption keys that for the messages, the only people that hold that are the government. So any of that information that is any of that information that people might send in terms of their symptoms or whatever it might be, we can be sure is only held by the government. And that was, you know, one of the key pieces, and that is why some of the other channels that this could be available in, so for instance Facebook Messenger, etc., this hasn't gone there, only to WhatsApp at the moment. So all of those things have been reviewed. Everything has been security reviewed very tightly, and you know, privacy people have reviewed as well. So we're comfortable that that's all in play.
Awesome. All right. Amazing work. Thank you very much for letting us know what you got going on there. And we'll come back to you at the end. We're just going to, if you can hang around. And now we're going to quickly jump over to Jo Turner. Jo is Trust Manager at Who Did You Help Today? And she's going to talk to us today about Help Tank and how they're leading in by connecting skilled professionals with community organisations who need them, and how people on this call potentially get involved. So, Jo, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Thanks, Richard. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here today, and some really interesting things coming out from so many people. I guess COVID has taught us how communities come together incredibly well when they need to. Help Tank is a digital platform that the Who Did You Help Today Trust started about 3.5 years ago, and Help Tank was set up to connect skilled volunteers essentially with not-for-profits and charitable organisations. Kind of recognising that there's a heap of skilled people out there who want to give their time to charitable organisations, and often these charities, because they operate on a pretty small budget, can't access help with things like website design or graphic design or, you know, marketing strategy. So we have been operating and have over 1,000 volunteers and have had about 700 projects that have been matched with the not-for-profit sector. But I guess when COVID came along, we talked, the trustees and myself talked and said, well, how can we use our existing platform to help the small businesses around New Zealand who are going to be hugely impacted by COVID? So we essentially broadened the scope of what Help Tank could offer during this time by saying, okay, if you're a small business and you need help, come to us. We've got all these volunteers who are really happy to help you at this time. And so that's essentially what we've been doing for the last 3.5 weeks, however long we've been in lockdown. And what we've found is that we've got just volunteers, so many volunteers, wonderful people who want to give advice to small businesses. And we've had some amazing stories already. For example, one business, I got this very long email saying, I think I need to shut. We're never going to survive this. And anyway, we connected them with a business mentor who talked them through it. And 10 days later, he emailed, he said, oh, it's amazing. I'm ready. Actually, I think I'm going to need to employ more staff when I can start operating again. I've worked out, I've got all this forward business, and, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So we've had some, I guess, fabulous stories. We are still working with the not-for-profit sector as well, and a lot of them are also struggling. And I guess their main concern is their long-term sort of funding and how they will get that. So we've had a volunteer working with a not-for-profit to try and do their financial forecasting for the next 12 months, given that some of their funding may be a little bit challenging going forward. So yeah, I think probably from this call, what we're looking for is volunteers, obviously, because we can always use more volunteers. There's that many people who need their website upgraded or the way they operate to change so that they can continue. But also, one of the things we're trying to do is get the message out to small businesses, and we're working with people like the Rotorua Business Association to say, we have got volunteers here, so if you need help, like, connect with us, because we've got people who can help you, just for example, navigate the government website to find out how you get the government support packages. Because for some people, you know, your local plumber, electrician, this is really, really challenging to actually go through all the information and decipher how to apply for help or what you're entitled to. So things like that. And we've had businesses who say, I need to relook at my whole marketing strategy. My entire business is based off overseas travelers. So I think we're trying to enable those connections, knowing that, you know, there are a lot of people who want to help, but making sure that small businesses know there's other ways to get personal one-on-one help rather than just navigating through websites, which can be quite overwhelming because there's a lot of information, but it's hard to work out what's relevant to your particular business. So yeah, I guess a little bit similar to what SOS are doing, and that just trying to keep these businesses get through this patch and come out the other side, because New Zealand is essentially built on small businesses, and everyone wants these businesses to survive. You want to be able to go to your local coffee shop at the end, or whatever it is, your local fish shop and your local florist, and all these people we interact with on a weekly basis, is actually getting volunteers to help them survive this. So when we do get back to normal, they are there for us to resume our normal life with them. So yeah, I guess that's sort of a summary of where help tanks come in. And again, like SOS, we also are a charitable organisation, so there's no personal gain for us. We're not doing this for any financial gain. It's purely trying to enable connection so that New Zealand can get up and get moving when and if it's safe. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So I'm happy to take questions. That's kind of a brief synopsis of where we're at for now.
Awesome. All right. Well, the main question that's coming through is how do I volunteer? So I understand your website's helptank.nz, and that's the place to go to register.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just go on to helptank.nz, and there's a register as a skilled professional, and then essentially you can start applying for any projects. You can go on that website and see which projects are live at the moment. There's quite a number up there. It's increasing every day. Some are from not-for-profit, some are from small businesses. So yeah, jump online and register, and yeah, that's how it starts. Very easy.
Awesome. And are there any specific sort of groups of skills or types of help that you're really crying out for? Any of the key things that you see people looking for?
I mean, there's a lot of businesses who are keen to get help with their marketing strategies, and there's a lot of businesses who have existing websites but have needed to upgrade them and change them very quickly to adapt to being able to work in this environment. I mean, we've had some who have needed to change to offer online training rather than, obviously face-to-face things. So yeah, a lot around the tech side, which is hence why I'm on this call today. I am no tech person, so that's a caveat. Don't ask me any technical questions. But yeah, a lot of marketing and just navigating their way through some of the information coming from the government. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, well done you. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And obviously, I'm sure there'll be people jumping on your site to register very quickly. So thanks very much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Quickly jump into the chat and push those through, whether they're for Joe or for any of our panelists today. And also any call outs, just a last call for call outs. Any initiatives that perhaps you guys out there know that people have got going, and you know that they need some help, or just generally need some awareness? Is there anybody out there that would like to call out some good things that are happening? Oh, dead air. We'll leave it dead air. All right. And so, well, I guess with that, there's nothing more to say other than to thank the three of you for your time today. Really appreciate you taking your time, not just to come and see us, but for all the amazing stuff that you're doing. It's really great to see Kiwis stepping up in times like this and providing huge inspiration and help for others. So we thank you all for everything you do. With that, I think we are done today. So I'd like to thank everyone again for attending. Thanks again to our wonderful speakers, and yeah, look after yourselves out there.